He accused the government of a campaign of lies and deception concerning the disaster. Next, defendant. Although the defendant was found to be innocent, many people suspect that he had actually committed the crime. Next, diplomat. After working as a diplomat for some years, he left the foreign service and became a journalist. Next, fluctuation. Some fluctuation in the price of oil were normal, but a drop of this size was a very rare. Next is governor. The new governor voted to put state interest before all else. Okay, next is guerrilla. The businessman was kidnapped by guerrillas and kept in jungle for 10 years. Wow, it's really hard to do, and I think it's rarely happened. Yes. Okay, next, honestly. Newspaper questioned the mayor's honesty, suggesting that he was lying about his business activities. Next, inheritance. As we understood more about genetic inheritance, the substantial role is placed in disease is becoming clearer. Next, injustice. The actor hearted of social injustice led him to join a campaign against the government's policies. Okay, next is lag. There is inevitably a time lag between a new discovery and its appearance in standard textbook. Okay, next. Linguists. Although many people think that language influence our worldviews, linguists are not so sure. Wow, it's so really interesting, yes. Okay, next is margin. The candidate only won by a narrow margin, but he claimed the result was a great victory. Next is optimism. Okay. Young people tend to have a greater optimism about the future than older people do. Okay, next is parliament. The steady growth in the power of Parliament is one of the great themes of English history. Okay, next is policymaker. The scientists appeared to policymakers to pay more attention to environmental research. Okay, next. Okay, next is the pollen. Bees help to maintain genetic diversity in plants by taking pollen from one plant to another. Okay, next is reconstruction. The period following the American Civil War is often known as the Reconstruction era. Okay, next is relocation. The building of the new airport involved the relocation of many farmers. Okay, next is plausible. The theory is plausible, but no means proven. Okay, next is. I found it. Irrelevant. His point is valid but irrelevant to the current discussion. Ongoing. The police visit was part of an ongoing campaign against illegal drug use. Next is potent. Many were amazed by the potent display of military power in the Gulf War. Intact. No matter how difficult things got, he kept his integrity intact. Next is identical. Identical twins are siblings that originate from a single fertilized egg. Okay, paramount. He was the paramount leader of the Chinese Communist Revolution. Detrimental. Boy, bad behavior was detrimental to the school's atmosphere. Gullible. Those children are so gullible that they will believe almost everything. Yeah. Okay. Integral. An integral part of athletic excellence is a knowledge of the fundamentals. Okay, next is outright. He said her claims were an outright lie with no basis in fact. Next is feasible. Our new economic plan is both innovative and feasible. Okay, next is vicious. Police on the scene were appalled at the vicious nature of the crime. Next is lethal. A person trained in martial arts can drive a lethal blow by hand. Neutral. The machine was used to measure neutral activity in the brain. Mundane. Many people thought her job was glamorous, but for her, the routine has become mundane. Climatic. It is clear that climatic factors generally play an important role in determining the spread of disease. Facial. Some scientists argue that facial expressions are rooted in nature rather than culture. Humanitarian. The priceless was famous for her devotion to humanitarian, such as helping the sick children. Wow, she's doing really great. Okay, next is incompetent. A series of bad decisions by competent doctors actually made his disease worse. Next is insane. Opponents of the new tax denounced it as insane and argued that it would cause the whole economy to collapse. Microscopic. The study of microscopic organisms helps us understand better the importance of healthy forest soils. Okay, next is missionary. Although scholarly, his work betrayed a typically missionary sense of superiority. over the natives. Okay, next is monetary. There are many things in life that do not have monetary value. Psychological. Some biologists believe that there is a psychological basis to most human behavior. Privileged. The research showed that children from privileged backgrounds were more likely to gain entrance to a prestigious university. Okay, next is aggressively. The government aggressively pursued a policy of expelling illegal aliens. Aliens is not real aliens, not be a space of the humans like of the aliens. It means to the other countries people. It's really hard to understand. Okay. Next is considerably. Many the educator argued that public examination had become considerably easier over time. Exclusively. Many luxury spas offer treatment which exclusively utilize their own specially made beauty product. Wow, nice. Okay, next is readily. The dish can easily be made with ingredients readily available at any supermarket. Next is spark. The decision to persecute the religious leader sparked an angry reaction among his followers. Okay, next is escalate. Okay, what began as a minor border dispute rapidly escalated into a military conflict. Next is obsessed. The car lover was obsessed with obtaining antique cars and restoring them. Real. The village was still bleeding from the effects of the previous month's earthquakes. Okay. Hey, treasure. Don't stop me. Okay, next is refill. He stopped at a gas station and refilled the tank in his car. Okay, next is outnumber. It is still the case that male engineering students greatly outnumber female ones. Next is eclipse. Team Trump was eclipsed by news of Prime Minister resignation. Hatch. The mother birds sit on the egg until they hatch a week later. Thrive. According to her letter, her business is thriving in Australia. Wow. Cool. Okay, next is the contaminate. After the accident, the water supply was contaminated with chemicals. Oh my gosh, it's too terrible. Don't contaminate to the rivers or seas. Okay, next is displace. Thousands of people were displaced from their homes by the flood. Wow, it's danger. But it needs to displace. Okay, next is preceded. Many famous scientists has preceded him in the post. Okay, next is prescribed. The rules for taking the exam were prescribed carefully in reading. Wow, it's important to many people. Okay, next is subsidize. The company subsidized my monthly rent. Okay, next is amend. The law was amended to take into account new developments in biotechnology. Okay, next is as the war continued, the fluid situation began to deteriorate. Okay, next is hinder. Hindered. Work on repairing the bridge was hindered by strong wind. Oh, don't they delay? Okay, next is Excel. Wow, it will be a famous soft to make for like to check for how we expense to or be anything others to checking. It means win for something others. Wow, it's so cool. Okay, it was all the students from her class excelled during the final examination period. Wow, nice. Okay, next is exert. Few of the employees have exerted their right to paternity leave. Concede. I must concede that I did not do as well as I should have in the competition. Spur. The coach hoped that the loss would spur the team to work harder in the next match. Wow. Oh, don't go. Okay, next is exacerbate. His mother attempts to help simply exacerbate his problem. Next is invoke. In a moment of crisis, the man invoked the name of Buddha. Okay, next is encompass. The new housing development is starting to encompass the entire woodland. Okay, next is evaporate. His wife enthusiasm for the idea evaporated when she heard how much the new car would cost. Okay, next is oh. Okay, next is overrode. The president overrode his subordinates' decision and restored the original plan. Okay, next is renovation. The influx of wealthy foreigners led to the renovation of many of the old seafront houses. Wow, nice. Okay, next is repression. The period of fascism rule is remembered as a time of repression and misuse of power. Next is revision. The third edition of the textbook contained many important revisions to its content. Next is scarcity. A growing scarcity of the mineral led to dramatic rise in its price of world markets. scenario. In the worst case scenario, the chairman of the company said that the factory would have to close. Next is scope. 2 days after shooter escaped, the police say they were boarding in scope of the Manhattan. Okay. Next is sponsorship. Following the scandal, the company announced that it was withdrawing its sponsorship of the tennis player. Okay, next is subsidy. Many people believe that governments should provide subsidies for the development of renewable energy. Wow. Sponsorship subsidy. Nice. Okay, next is tank. Gasoline was kept in language underground tank as the site. Okay. And it also means the tank will be only be into the waters or like fuel, but it means in Japan it's safe for like to some others of the attack to how I can say it means to other thing to how I can it means for other mean to have an other mean to like a use into danger way. Yes, sorry. Okay, next is taxpayer. Many taxpayers resent local official making expensive overseas trip on public money. Teller. Most people consider the use of teller to gain political objectives unacceptable. Okay, next is transition. The transition from high school to university can be a difficult one for students. Acidification. The growing acidification of the oceans presents a major threat of marine ecosystem. Okay, next is clone. Some scientists believe it would be a huge benefit to research if we could create clones of extinct creatures. Geneticist. Managing the logistic of a major music festival is certainly not as easy task. Yeah, it's really hard. Okay, next is nanotechnology. One of the most exciting and potentially profitable new science field is nanotechnology. Yeah, I totally agree about it. Next is orphan. Wars generally leave behind many widows and orphans who need to be cared by the state. Okay, next is widow. Sorry. Okay, next is photosynthesis. Trees and other plants extract carbon dioxide from the air and using photosynthesis convert it into nutrition. Next is proclamation. In the UK, Parliament is dissolved by a royal proclamation made by reigning monarch. Okay, it's really hard to say. Okay, next is reimbursement. Professors needed to buy their airline ticket first and then apply to the university for reimbursement. It's so hard. Okay, next is Subtitle. He did not like watching movie with subtitles because it was difficult to enjoy the story. Okay, next is surcharge. Many airlines add fuel surcharge to the price of a ticket. Surcharge is means to another price of like to add by some. This means the ticket onto the another. It means the fuel surcharge to add the price of the ticket. Okay, next is trade-off. The trade-off of moving into a district with good public school is that the cost of living usually high. Wow, high. Yes, it's really hard. Yes. Okay, next is vocalization. Many animals apart from human beings produce vocalization. X-ray. At a hospital, they took an X-ray for her leg in order to see the fracture. Contradiction. There was a contradiction between the aim and method of the government's economic policy. Okay, next is recession. The financial crisis led to a global recession and high levels of unemployment. Okay, next is immunity. Some people have a natural immunity to the disease. Array. The shop displayed an array of different kind of clothes. Latitude. The animals could only survive above a certain latitude. Okay, next is gravity. The force of gravity is much weaker than the moon because it's smaller mass. Yes. Okay, next is President. At the peak of his career, the actor's President was unrevealed. Next is coincidence. Meeting her on the street after so many years was quite a coincidence. Intake. That year's intake of students was the best they had ever had. Next is surplus. The teacher told all the students to include in their biographies all the books they used for their reports. The next is ballot. The union took a ballot of its members to decide whether to accept the management offer. Okay, next is outrage. She could not suppress her outrage at the court decision. Wow, but don't anger and don't attack for someone in the court. It will make another sin. Okay, next is juror. Juror. He had once served as a juror in a complicated murder trial. Okay, next is restoration. The restoration of the fire-damaged palace took over 5 years. Okay, next is entrenched. Activists argue that racist attitudes are deeply entrenched in the police force. Next is high intensity. high intensity. I began to feel pain in my knees after doing too much high intensity exercise. Okay, next is lasting. The only way to achieve a lasting peace is for both sides to compromise. Prehistoric. Most of our knowledge of prehistoric lifestyles come from archaeological excavations. Yeah, everyone is not know about too much about that. Okay, next is staggering. These days, many governments spend staggering sum on information security. Treasure, don't slap me. Okay, next is transgender. The issue of transgender rights has become an increasingly controversial one. Yeah, it was a really danger to speak about that. Why? Because many people are arguing now, and transgender will be a really hard many to know about to everyone's. So it was a really I really uneasily to understand the issue of transgender, and it's controversial one. Yes. Okay. Next is corrupt. The corrupt politicians scheme to fraudulently win the elections. It's happened recently. I think many politicians will be doing that, but I think many people should stop to do that. Next is drastic. The Earth has seen drastic change to its climate before. Okay, next is lucrative. I knew a man who built a very lucrative business from the repair and resale of junk appliances. Okay, next is adequate. Even though the apartment was small, he found it adequate for himself. Next is scarce. Crows used to be common here, but now they have grown quite scarce. Wow, it's really happened. Okay, next is distinct. He had a distinct Scottish accent that many find attractive. Okay, next is eligible. The student was disappointed to discover that he was not eligible for a scholarship. Next is pedestrian. That residents uh, petitioned their city government for a pedestrian walkway. Next is ex- exclusive. The Prime Minister granted an exclusive interview to one newspaper. Next is uh, notable. There was a notable absence of young people at a party. Next is confidential. What I am about to tell you is confidential, so please don't repeat it. Um, this means of repeat is don't say again for not means to don't say again. It means to don't say for other people. Okay. Next is overdue. Activists say the change in the law was long overdue and should have been introduced earlier. Yeah. Okay, next is respiratory. Pollens out at different times of the year can exacerbate respiratory problems. Yeah, I think some people will be really danger. Okay, next is edible. Uh, he was poisoned by what he thought was an edible mushroom. Don't eat mushroom in wild because I think if you think it was edible, but in real it's not. Okay, next is supposedly. When she entered his office, he found her supposedly busy boss fast asleep at his desk. Next is thoroughly. Governments will not license new medicines until they have been thoroughly tested for safety. Okay, I got new section. Yes, see this. Okay, I got it. Yay! You got it, treasure. Oops, my face is gone. Okay, next. Okay, next is elect. They tried to let an answer from the little boy, but he refused to speak. Enticed, enticed by the air conditioning, he entered the store. Wow. In summer, I seemingly enticed by air conditioning. Yes. Next is vindicate. Uh, After his acquittal, he claimed he had been completely vindicated. Next is substantiate. Uh, he could not substantiate the allegations he made and he lost the lawsuit. Next is allay. The government tried to allay public fears of a stock market crash. Okay, next is placate. He tried to placate his angry girlfriend with a bouquet of roses and a box of chocolate. I think it's not work. I think it's good to banquet of rose, but box of chocolate will be not good. But it's especially for that chocolate is a Godiva. It's too expensive. Okay, next is stifle. The robber stifled the crime to the guard to avoid detection. Okay, next is dwindle. The number of whales in many species is slowly beginning to dwindle. Okay, next is rebuke. The police chief rebuked the two officers for their poor handling of the case. Don't don't do like that. Okay, next is reverberate. The sound of the gunshot reverberated across the empty field. Next is swerve. The cyclist swerved to avoid a child and crashed into a wall. Yeah, I think it's happened for other day. Okay, next is articulate. He found it difficult to articulate his feelings, but his mother understood what he was trying to say. Yeah, it, me too. It's sometimes to happen to me. Yes. Okay, next is conserve. Experience showed that one good way to conserve water is by putting a tax on it. Wow. But if it was added to tax on the water, I hate it. Okay, next is deepen. The unusual weather only deepened the public anxiety about global warming. Okay, devise. The government established a committee to devise solution to the growing problem of urban poverty. Next is dictate. Many universities have opened new departments in order to differentiate themselves from their rivals. Next is dissent. Anyone who dissents from the regime's police was liable to be arrested and imprisoned. Next is inception. Wow, same for the movie. To this, it means to start. Wow, that means it's start of that movie. Okay, next. Okay, it was the January 1st represent the inception of the new year and symbolize renewal. Okay, next is stigma. The stigma of failure early in childhood can affect someone throughout their life. Next is freight. Although the goods were cheap, the cost of the freight was too high. Oh, it's a freight were to get really expensive money to in some shopping. Yours should be really care about it. Okay, next is turmoil. At the end of every term, the university always seemed in great turmoil. Next is neutrality. America has fought several wars to protect its sovereignty. Next is um oh sorry it, okay, neutrality. Many people double the neutrality of the investigations. Oh, sorry. Okay. Next is dilemma. When he saw his friend cheating on the exam, he faced a dilemma. Should he repeat him or not? Wow, it's really hard to thinking. But I think there should be a say for teacher because this friend will be they say after the test, but he will repeat it. So I think it should be a say to the um, say for to report to teachers, and I think like tests shouldn't be cheated. So that I think he should be a report. Okay, next is evaluation. At the end of the course, each student filled out of an evaluation form to share their opinion of the class. Okay, next is expedition. A team of explorers set out on an expedition to find the source of the river. Okay, next is ideology. The ideologies of fascism and communism, although barely opposed, often had similar effects. Okay, next is pill. Follow his surgery, he had to take 4 different pills of every morning. Wow, 4! It's too many. Okay, next is prayer list. In many cultures, wedding was associated with priests who were the intellectuals of the time. Next is warrior. Uh, aristocrats in medieval Europe were primarily warriors trained in military skills. Wow, I don't know about it. Okay, next is archive. It looks like a chief, but it's different. I also be wrong many times, but I already understand why it's safe for archive. Okay. Church archives in Europe have turned out to be a useful source for social historians. Descendant. DNA analysis show that some inhabitants were descendants of Viking. Wow, so cool. Next is throng. It means the crowd. He pushed through the throng of waiting reporters and walked quickly away. Wow. Okay, next is zenith. Zenith. At the very zenith of his career, he got involved in a scandal. How poor him. Next is propensity. Despite his propensity for anger, he was a generous and basically kind person. Really? Okay, next is atrocity. The atrocity of the mass killing still caused the survivors to have nightmares. Oops. I think it's happened for someone. Okay, next is it was next word cessation. The first step in any peace process is an initial cessation of hostilities. Okay, next is pretense. The child soon gave up any pretense of doing his homework. Oh, if it means that he stopped to do for to pretending to he are cheat to doing this, but if it means to he quit to studying where be not good. Okay, next is bounty. Every year of Thanksgiving Day, Americans celebrate that the bounty of the harvest with a big meal. I think it's so important. Okay, next is hunch. The detective had a hunch that the man was guilty, but he lacked any hard evidence. Wow, I think it's happened sometime. Okay, next is perpetrator. The perpetrator of the crime was betrayed by an informer. Next is alignment. His mysterious alignment keep him from working on a regular basis. Next is neurologist. Her doctor advised her to visit a neurologist as soon as possible. Okay, next is precipitation. Okay, next is foray. This was the author's first foray into new non-fiction reading. Wow, nice. Next is savvy. Everyone admitted the savvy with which the foreman solved problems. Oh, it does not mean to savvy verb not means to wabi savvy. It means to skill or the hand to doing for something. Next is claymore. There was a huge public clamor over the recent political scandals. Next is adherence. The UN spokesman called for greater adherence to the international treaties which both countries had signed. Next is allowance. Each researcher was given a travel allowance to help them attend the conference of their choice. Next is Arthritis. Many people suffer from painful attacks of arthritis as they get older. Next is astronomer. A group of astronomers announced the discovery of a new planet. Next is breeder. Instead of going to a pet shop, the woman brought her new dog directly from a breeder. Next is casualty. The bombing campaign led to many civilian casualties, including many children. Oh, it's awful. Next is censorship. In order to control public opinion, the authorities maintain a strict system of censorship. Wow. Okay, next is clarity. The clarity of the image was such that the faces in the cloud could easily be identified. I want to be a more better to this clarity of this video, but it's hard to do. Next is confederate. The thief had a confederate who helped disarm the alarm system during the robbery. Next is confession. Oh, sorry. The thief have. Oh, I already said. Okay. As well known, confessions obtained through torture are very unreliable. Oh, it looks like a confederate will be a confession. Okay, next is forefront. The university was at the forefront of new research into the use of robots in medicine. Next is generosity. Thanks to the generosity of an anonymous donor, the hospital was able to build a new wing. Wow. It means to make for another place to like us to living for their um to someone to need to be like doing the really hard like how I can say it, wait a while, to doing for surgery, need to surgery peoples or anything others. Okay, next is John. The genre of the detective story was invented in the 19th century. Wow, I didn't know about it. Next is prolific. The novelist astonished everyone with his prolific output. Next is dissent. Despite a few dissent voice, most people support their prime minister's reform. Yeah. Next is oral. It means that culture without writing have to depend on oral tradition for a record of their history. Yeah, it's really dangerous. Next is illustrious. The college boasts many illustrious graduates. Next is pinpoint. Technology now allows pinpoint military strike from the air. Oh my gosh. Next is exorbitant. The food is delicious, but the prices is exorbitant. Wow, don't do that. Okay, next is insurmountable. They had faced seemingly insurmountable problem at first. Next is catastrophic. The extent war had a catastrophic effect on a country infrastructure. Oh my gosh. Next is comparable. The explorer found the climate of the volcanic area comparable to that of a rainforest. Wow. Okay, next is cosmetic. Many dentists these days specialize in cosmetic density, where they can make bigger profit. Okay, next is disastrous. Critics denounce the government's economic policy as disastrous and likely to lead unemployment. Wow. Okay, next is freelance. The one woman enjoyed working as a freelance translator, although it offered little financial security. Next is ideological. The feminist critic attacked the novel for both ideological and unrealistic reasons. Next is inadvertently. On the train, he inadvertently stepped on another passenger's foot. Oh. Oh my gosh. Next is admittedly, racing traffic can have a negative effects on the domestic economy as well. Next is allegedly. The researchers had allegedly falsified the result of some of his experiments. If it's real, it's not good. Next is extensively. The sociologist said that she had talked extensively with local residents before reaching her conclusions. Wow, it's good. Next is firmly. He tightened the screws to make sure the flat-screen TV was firmly attached to the wall. But I think it's really should be care about it, because if it's too much tightened, will be broken to the walls. Next is albeit. The investment plan was a highly profitable, albeit risky, move on the part of the bank. Okay. Next section 9. Okay. Incline. The man's story sounded authentic and she was inclined to believe him, although she still had some doubts. Next is intensify. During the second half, the team intensified their effort and managed to scoring a winning goal. Wow. Next is lodge. The student made so much noise that one of their neighbors lodged a complaint with the police. Next is mitigate. Although the disease could not be cured, its effect could be mitigated with various drugs. Okay, mitigate, sorry. Next is out loud. The new administration say that they would outlaw the loan sharks who preyed on people in debt. Wow. It's so interesting. Next is render. The company's plan to build a new factory was rendered impractical by the rise in run plants. Next is chatter. On a school bus, boys and girls chattered together happily until they arrived at school. 最後までご視聴ありがとうございました。モチベーションになるので、高評価とチャンネル登録よろしくお願いします。